Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Bridge Book Club meeting. Welcome, everybody, wherever you're watching around the world. Tonight, we are going to be talking about the post-projection physical waking state. We're going to continue that section, as well as start the projector and projections, which cover chapters 405 to 422 of the book. Before I introduce tonight's facilitator, just a reminder that we will be recording the session for those who cannot attend during this time, and we will be posting the recordings on YouTube for you to watch later. We might break into smaller groups for a discussion to share our thoughts and experiences, and at that time we'll stop the recordings, and then we'll come back together as a group and then present the technique for the month. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our facilitator tonight, Ulisses Schlosser. He is a psychologist who graduated from the University of Sao Paulo with a master's degree in contemporary integration in Latin America, and is working in the penal system of the state of Paraná. He is currently a volunteer and coordinator of the International Council for Neologistics and Terminology of Conscientiology. He is the author of the Neological Dictionary of Paraphenomenology, co-author of the books Cosmic Consciousness and Human Excellence, Spirituality and Global Ethics, both published by Cambridge Scholars, The Return of Ethics and Spirituality in Global Development, and Indigenous Peoples and the Brazilian Jurisdiction. He first came into contact with the ideas of projectiology in 1984 and has been a volunteer and researcher in conscientiology since 1988. So welcome, Ulisses.
Thank you, Michiko. It's a great honor, a great pleasure to be together with you and to participate in this program of study. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ulisses. So we will start off, Ulisses, if you want to share your presentation, and we'll have about 60 minutes of presentation and interactive discussion.
Okay. So I may start right now, yes? So once more, good morning, good afternoon, good evening for you all. I can see here a few friends, and our subject today, I suppose that it considers core subjects in the study of the projection outside the body, projectiology. We will talk about a few topics by the end of one section of the book, and a lot of topics about the other sections, that is the projector and the projections, yes? So let me show you here our subject. The first section, it is about the chapters 405 until 408, and then the next section, the projector and the projections. We will have another few chapters. So just to be clear, we are by the end of one section, and we will continue through another section. Okay. Well, our first subject, it's about the technical notes of the diary of the projector. So we can imagine that the projector has had an extra physical experience, and after that, he will take a few notes. So what is important to record, to study, to develop a personal diary? Professor Valdo, the author of the book Projectiology, he takes a very free way of counseling people to develop their work, but he develops a lot of recommendations at the same time. You can see here many topics that are written in the book Projectology. And you may ask, should I really write down all those topics? Yes? Oh, well, you are free to choose what you may write as a category of research. The important is that you may record information that will be useful for you in your personal development. So, and not only to just copy what is written in the book. If you want to use what's written in the book, you should understand the reason for that. So here, I would ask you, why to write down if today is a holiday or not? Is this information relevant? What do you think about that? Holidays should interfere in the extra-physical experience or not? Well, for instance, I chose to highlight this topic because that interferes in my personal experience. In general, when I have a free day, when the next day is a free day for me, it's much different. I relax a lot, you see. I feel much more relaxed. In general, my mental somatic connections that bore me, they disappear. I feel, in general, my performance is much more fluent in terms of energies, in terms of the thought scenes, and my projections in general are much better in this situation. So I can find for myself a reason for that, to choose this topic, you see? So this way of thinking, I think it's very interesting to consider how to use the book. Another topic that I could highlight there, the order of the sleep. For those people who develop research, and we know that the first moment in our sleep during the night is different from the last moment when you are near to wake up. In general, we have a lot of recollections by the end of the sleep. So in the middle of the night, in general, our sleep is deeper. It's different from the beginning of the sleep. So the content of the memories are different. The content of the experience in general is different. Our energetic condition is different from one moment of the night to another moment. So the sequence and the order of the sleep, it is the first sleep, the second sleep, the third sleep. So I understand this topic in this way, you see. For me, it's very useful too. So I don't know if you have any questions about any topic. I didn't plan to talk about all of them, you see, just to give an idea how to use this kind of notes. If you don't have any questions, I will move ahead, okay? So the next chapter is about the confirmations after lucid consensual projections. This is very important for us to consider what is real, what is not, and how to check it. So the projected confirmation is the effect of confirming in the human dimension the extra-physical events experienced by the projected intraphysical consciousness. In the same way, Professor Valdo, he makes a list of many topics, and also you may choose other topics, but a few of them are really very important. This first one, the collection of more incontestable proof. Maybe this is the main topic, because you may look for points that are really very important to show you that the experience was real, that it really happened. So this is a general topic for you to create an important category, for you to say that you had a real experience. There is another very important topic. It is about the witness, or another consciousness that can help you to confirm that the phenomenon really happened. So you can also put together small pieces of proof or evidence. Putting together small pieces may give you a better cosmovision, a better notion about the set of events. So maybe at the first time, you may not consider a small piece of evidence, but if you put a lot of them together, you may have a different vision. And in general, coherences, coincidences, and synchronicities are very, very important for you to assume that you had something reasonable. You had a reasonable experience. So you may use many other resources, many other kinds of confirmations. You may find them written down right here: maps, climate information, health conditions. Okay? Any comments? Let me go ahead, okay? If you want to come back, please just tell me.
I was just going to.
Yes,
I was going to just say about that collection of more incontestable proof. It's always a personal thing, right? So it's incontestable to you. Your experience is correct. Just I thought it might be important to just emphasize that, because some people may think, incontestable for the entire world. No, it's for you based on your experiences, right?
It's not an easy question to answer. It's difficult to answer that, you see. Of course, it's a relative condition. It's a relative category. But let me see. Well, in my personal experience, I used to consider a lot my self-awareness. When I can think to myself, that when I can use my reflection, my cognitive condition, when I can ask questions to myself, when I feel really lucid. This is my personal condition. Well, my existence, my personal existence is very important. My thoughts, you see, my self-awareness, I would synthesize in this way. This is much more important for me. But in general, people use events with information that only in the specific condition of the projection that should be known. For instance, if you have the information about something happening inside another house, exactly in that time, and when you can say, oh, at 10 o'clock in the morning, there was a dog in the kitchen in the house of my neighbor, you see? And this kind of information, in general, people love to use this. You mean specific knowledge that only should be possible to observe if someone invisible should be there. This kind of argument is very common, very common. I don't know if you have any other idea or...
I just want to make a comment about witness or percipient, because when I start to do more projection, and it was in the beginning, I used to look a lot for witness. So if I see someone in my projection, I'll try to conform with the person. And, you know, appeared this, I had that experience was when my witness was so good and was in the same time and that happened, and I could confirm the person without saying anything. So I said, do you remember we were in the projection right now? Time, no, just 15 minutes before. I wake up the person say, yes, I remember. I say, can you please tell me what was happening? And the person just said what was happening. And I knew because I was in the projection. So it's so good when sometimes you try to have witness to confirm. And it was good for me. Yeah. Just an experience, just to share an example of witness.
Yes, in general, it comes to my mind that it is important when you want to include other people in your experience, when you want to share with other people your experience. And so if you have the confirmations, it's better for you to have a good argument to say that, oh, we were together in this extra physical experience because of this, because of that. And also, it is important when we have doubts about what really happened to look for confirmations. And in another way, also, if you are developing any kind of scientific experiment, the confirmations are very important. Okay. So, okay, may we go ahead? So now let's see the next chapters, the factors unfavorable to post-projective confirmation. So these confirmations are in general around the problem of perception. In general, the confusion of and misunderstandings considering our perception, they are characterizing the factors that are unfavorable. You may find this problem in the first 3 topics written in the book. For instance, the non-differentiation of the physical dimension from the extra-physical dimension. This is a problem of perception. The extra-physical forms may seem more consistent than intra-physical ones. And the third, the disturbance with the enhanced perceptions in the extra-physical. Those 3 topics, they refer to problems considering our perception. But those problems may have causes. The 4th topic refers to a kind of cause for those situations. That is, the density of the psychosoma when it carries a lot of dense energies. It is like something, I don't know the right word in English, toxic, when it's intoxicating the psychosoma, you see? So our perception may be very different in those conditions. So those 4 topics may explain a lot of problems that we may find to use clearly our perception. So the next topic, the 5th topic about preconceptions, it is from another category. It is about really the personal ideology, the way of thinking, misconceptions. Maybe this is a very hard problem to educate in the consciousness. You may not solve this problem technically. You may solve it with personal education. It's much different. Perception and energies, you may solve this problem working technically with your energies, with your holosoma. But the preconceptions, it's from another category. You may try to really to re-educate yourself. It's much difficult. Because of that, a few people may find difficult to perform and to understand what is going on. And okay, do you have any questions about that? I find this problem very, very important about the preconceptions. That may be the worst in general for us to deal with. You see then, an intentionally affirmed, falsely logical point of view about the facts. And then the human illusion or Maya about the reality of extra-physical events. So there is something happening and you consider that with a component of illusion. And the next, the natural difficulty to translate observations outside the human body into words. That's something that in general we used to say. We don't have a good vocabulary, or many times we need to create new words to translate or to describe what is happening. And the last, the co-participants, who later does not remember anything when in the physical waking state. That's horrible when it happens, because you were together there with a friend outside the body, and the other people is not in the other place is unable to say what's really happening. And that's a big problem, because you may, in those situations, you can develop doubts about yourself, you see, when only you had the experience and other people say, no, that didn't happen. That's horrible. So you may be very safe about your own experience to deal with that, and also to help to clarify the other person, you see. So how to develop this kind of relationship with other person, and especially a friend, when he is saying something against your experience, you see. So that's not easy. Okay, may we go ahead? You see, it's very important, it's very interesting how Professor Waldo was able to think, and not only to think, he could put together a lot of experience in those topics, you see. This is a great quality of this book. So the analysis of the perceptions of the projector. So this chapter shows us categories for us to organize our analysis. I think that it's very easy to understand those topics. So you may consider information from the intraphysical dimension, from the paratroposphere, okay? This is the extraphysical dimension, closer to our intraphysical dimension. It is similar, it's like a copy. And the other category refers to the extraphysical dimension, the properly extraphysical dimensions. And Professor Waldo uses the expression, the extraphysical environment per se. And the next, the mental somatic dimension. So we should be able to develop discernment about where we are and for us to classify the information to help us organize our our diary. Okay, from where are you picking up that information, that experience? So it's not easy for the projector, really, in practice, to say clearly where he is. Okay? Here in the book, it is easy to understand, but in the practice, many times it's not easy for us to say, oh, for instance, if you are projected in your sleeping room, okay, where are you? What is the dimension? You are in the intraphysical dimension, outside of your body? No, we may say, no, I'm not. Maybe I should answer, I am in the paratroposphere. It is a copy. Well, but I am observing my sleeping room, okay? Those objects that I see, they are the intraphysical dimension or not? For me, it's not easy to answer those questions. Really, what I see, what is happening there, you see, it's not easy. And it's very common when we hear reports about an object that doesn't exist in my sleeping room. What is that? From where's the dimension of that object? Can you understand this kind of problem? In general, it makes confusion in the head of the projector. It's very common. I had this kind of experience. I lost my projection when I faced this kind of problem because we got confused, you see, in the extraphysical dimension. And in general, this confusion doesn't help the experience, and we can be back to our physical body and we finish the experience. So to deal with these categories in the practice, it's not easy. It is easy to understand, but in the practice, it's not. I consider it's not easy. So, and the types of projector. Oh, the types of projector. Here is the beginning of the way of thinking for us to classify the kinds of projector. So the types of projector, as Professor Valdo writes here in the first topic, it would be not correct to categorize intraphysical projectors into stereotypes because each human being possesses specific, extremely personal characteristics which are difficult to characterize. So if someone wants to create a specific category, that will not fit to another person, okay? So Professor Valdo is here, he is very flexible to show us that it's very important to understand the singularity of each person. So it's possible to develop general classifications, but probably it will not fit for specific cases. So I wrote down here things that I found interesting from this chapter. So I made a short collection of topics here. It's very interesting that the lucid projector gradually learns to die in peace. This is a very interesting idea. So you may find people that learns to live in peace because of the projective experience. And this may create, this kind of condition may create another kind of personality. So this is a very special type of projector, the person that lives in peace with the problem of death, you see? So this kind of people is very, very, very interesting. And this is the way of thinking, that the apprentice of death in relation to the idea of the assistant to death. You see, the person that learns to deal with the problem of death. So that the problem of death may be in the core of many kinds of frightens that in general disturbs our psychic condition. We don't know how heavy this condition of to be afraid of death may disturb our lives. And specifically this topic is one of the main transformations that the projector can develop with those experiences. Another topic, the projector catalyst and the sterilizing human beings. You see, the person who may help other people to develop the projective experience. You see, this is a very interesting characteristic. And in the other side, the person that really sterilize this condition. Those are types of projector, you see. So Professor Valdo, he avoided to develop a proper classification. But at the same time, he called our attention to very important characteristics of this type of projectors. He's only highlighting very important conditions. And then the erudition and even lucid projectability without any cosmoetical connotation. Well, this is the kind of projector, as Professor Waldo says here, without any cosmoetical connotation. You see? And even in this situation, projectability may be developed. You see? This kind of personality. And another topic, only major lucid projections, when repeated, can lead the intraphysical consciousness to become aware of the existence and scope of cosmoetics. I found this observation really very, very important. In general, we like to talk about our conclusions after the first experience, you see. And here, we may think that it's necessary to repeat a lot of experiences for us to really go deeper, important learning, especially in terms of cosmoetics. So I think that this observation calls our attention to the importance of cosmoetics, and more than that, the importance of really developing a deep way to consider our personal extraphysical experience. We need time, we need repetition, we need to deepen our learnings. Okay? The way I'm speaking here is clear, or do you have any recommendation for that? Okay?
No, it's clear. Thank you, Ulisses.
I was just noting the time though, Ulysses, you're about halfway through, so.
Okay, thank you, Jeffrey. Okay, well, this topic is about the dazzled projectors. So the dazzled projector is the intraphysical consciousness who has never had self-critique, or who actually lost self-critique in the analysis of his or her own projective experiences. So what is important in those situations? So the projector needs prudency to communicate. And in general, those 4 topics are basic. We may consider the right person, the right time, the right location, and the right way to communicate our experiences. And this condition is really something not pleasant for us when we find ourselves in this condition. It disturbs our personal development. I will go ahead, okay? I think that this point is clear. It's very important, but I think it is clear. So techniques for the development of the projector. Well, Professor Wald, he lists 6 technical fields for the projector development. So the temporary deactivation of the physical body. So you should apply your attention for that. You should try to be an expert in terms of deactivating your physical body. The management of consensual energies, the management of the holosoma. It means the capacities of this coincidence, okay, of your bodies, to detach your psychosoma from the physical body, the mental soma from the psychosoma and from the physical body, and how to manage this phenomenon of this coincidence. And next, the interexistential projects. If you dedicate yourself to interexistential projects, it may help a lot because you may find help from extra-physical helpers, and you may find a line of cosmoethical development if you are working with interexistential projects. Your energies will turn much better. And in this way, you may find yourself with the possibility of developing specifically your cosmoethical self-sanity. And this specific topic may give you autonomy, and even it may be considered a very specific topic of personal development. You may work it as a priority topic. As a consequence of that, the connections with extra-physical helpers is an ultimate condition of your personal development. Of course, those topics, you may consider them even in a logical sequence of development. It's not coherent if you want to develop connections with your extra-physical helpers if you don't work in interexistential projects, and if you don't worry about your cosmoetical self-sanity, you see? So you may find a logical line of development. Well, it's very easy to talk about that, but those 6 topics, they consist in a very huge plan of personal development. So here the title of the chapter is Techniques for Development of the Projector. But those topics are much more than techniques. They consist really of great fields of personal development, okay? So it requires a lot of work to develop those conditions. And the next chapter is about the projective recess. How to say this word, recess? Recess, it's not useful for me to say this word in English. The projective recess. So the projective recess is the existential phase of the intraphysical consciousness, which is characterized by the spontaneous cessation, almost always temporary, of the lucid projective experiences within a sequence of self-lucid and intensive projective experiments. You see, the spirits cannot speak with a person who is excessively devoted to human and material preoccupations. This was a thought by Swedenborg from the Diary Spiritualis. Professor Valdo used this citation in his book because it really synthesizes the idea. Okay, if you are dedicated excessively for your human life, probably you will have not inner space, inner time to develop your extra-physical experiences. And this is a classification considering relative and absolute recess. Okay, relative, it means when you have really temporary conditions that may change your access to the extra-physical dimension. An absolute recess is the condition when you spend more time without extra-physical experiences. In this way, we may consider the possibility of applying wisdom for us to accept the recess. For instance, if you are in an intense assistential period developing services, sometimes it may let the projector intentionally impeded by the extra-physical helpers from projecting from the human body with lucidity. So if you are in a very special period of intraphysical existential work, for instance, no problem. It is expected that the extra-physical experiences will decrease in terms of recalling them, or even the extra-physical helpers may protect yourself as a projector from the interferences from the intruders. It's very important for us to accept this kind of condition when the extra-physical helpers want to protect ourselves from any kind of danger from the extra-physical intruders, you see? So you may consider that sometimes you would like to continue having lucid projections, but the discernment may be considered in this situation. Specifically in this topic, do you have any considerations or comments? I don't know if it's clear for you. Okay,
that's clear, and I think it's a little bit surprising. That's new concept for me, because I always thought that the more interassistential work that you are doing, then the more lucid projections that you would probably be having, or you would be just as active in the extra physical doing assistance work. So that was really interesting for me.
Yes, Michiko, this is not a rule, but if you think about what is really happening during an intense assistential service, you may consider this condition that your work will be not desirable for a lot of extra-physical consciousness, and that may represent disturbance and really problem for the projector. And by knowing this condition, the extra-physical helpers may put you in a temporary recess for you to be more protected. You see, this is not a rule, but it may happen.
Yeah.
So,
Seems. No, sorry, Ulisses.
Okay, please, Magali, please.
No, when I looked to this definition and the things that you're saying about recess, seems that he wrote this book in parts also for those that have a lot of projection and then have a recess for advanced projector. And sometimes when you're, because it's difficult to us counting my memory, how much you invest in the projection, lucid projection, how much it is spontaneous in your life, right? And then you can see, does a recess exist, or actually it's just, you know, I'm not a lucid projector, you know, advanced projector. In just
it's a very good question. I think that the message that Professor Waldo wants to give us here is that it really exists. The recess, it really happens. You see this word that he wrote here, the projector intentionally impeded, you see, by the extra-physical helpers, you see? So this condition is real when it's not recommendable that the projector, that the person can be outside of the body. In many situations, you should not be there. In my personal experience, many times when I feel that outside of my body, I have really intruders, sometimes I come back to my body. I can decide that. I can remember in the book, Diary of Projections written by Professor Waldo, one or two experiences there, he tells this condition, he describes his personal experience in this way. He could observe in his sleeping room intruders, and he decided to come back to his physical body. So it's a condition when the projector by himself, he decides to not be projected, you see. But in other situations, this decision, we don't have all the information to take this kind of decision. So the extra-physical helper, he really has an important decision in this situation, and he's able for that.
Yeah, it's interesting that idea of the helpers impede someone to do something, but
Yes.
I have a personal experience that I was outside of the body. I just got lucidity, and I was doing a type of assistant, and it was really lucid for me, no doubts that I was there, what was happening. And the helpers just said, because I had a thought like, oh, I'm so sorry, it's so young. And then they said, oh, you're not helping now. And they took my lucidity. And I could see that. They impede me to continue there because they were using me with my energy to help. And so that was interesting because I thought helpers would not interfere much, but I saw interference there. It's interesting.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, listening to you, it comes to my mind the possibilities to learn and to learn with cosmetics from your from your report. You see, we are always learning in terms of cosmetics. So if we study the condition of the projective recess, this kind of learning may be in the core of the message of this chapter. So, so the projective questionnaire.
Just one thing. In terms of cosmoethics, sometimes it's cosmoethic if we help impede a child to do something, right?
Yes, that's it. Yes, yes, yes. It's a very good comparison. Yes. Analogy. So the projective questionnaire is a set of 200 questions that Professor Valdo wrote in this book to help the development of projectology. By the end of the chapter, he says that this questionnaire is now being developed in the International Institute of Projectology and Conscientology. So if you are interested in answering those questions, you can send your report to the International Institute of Projectology and Conscientology to help this development. So the intention of this questionnaire here is to help the development of the science projectology. It's a very big questionnaire. I will not continue talk about this chapter here because this could take all the time, okay? I just would like to say that the reason for it to be here, okay? So the ideal projector. This is the idealized theoretical image of the best existing intraphysical personality for the development of lucid projectability within conscientiometry research. So how could we imagine that an ideal projector could be? At least the majority of the listed 27 qualities, traits, or strong traits should be present. So Professor Valdo has a list of 27 topics for this condition and 20 criteria which are currently generally recommended for all individuals by conscientiotherapy. So you may find these conditions in the book, the list of these traits and criteria, okay? Here, by the end of the chapter, this is like a synthesis for this chapter. The following 6 final practical finishing touches of aptitude for lucid projection serve to complete the personality of the imagined ideal projector. So, do you use a single bed for your experiences? Do you have a low heartbeat? Practice lucid projection between midnight and 4 o'clock in the morning. Always lies in the dorsal position on a springless mattress. You are a part of an evolutionary duo, daily sex. There's not present any significant psychological problem regarding the future. Do you live in a really homeostasis? So those 6 conditions may help you assess your projective condition, okay? And those 6 conditions are really very, very recommendable for us to take as a target to reorganize our personal lives. Okay? Do you think that any of those conditions is difficult to achieve? Or all of them are very easy? For instance, to develop a low heart rate, how to do it? What is it? Where's the reason for that? Do you know your personal heart rate as an average rhythm? In general, and less than 60 beats per minute should be good. It's not easy to achieve that. You should exercise your body your breath condition, all your health condition for that. My personal condition right now is about 80 beats per minute. You see, I know that if I exercise myself, it will the heart rate will decrease. This is a very important condition for us to really deactivate our physical body, to relax deeply. If your heart rate is higher, it's not easy to relax your physical body. You see, and the holosoma, the heart as a physical organ works as an anchor, and it will be not easy for you to live your physical body, your heart in peace, laying on the bed. You see, this is something very practical. I just wanted to comment this topic. I think that the other topics are easy to understand, but not often easy to achieve, okay? But I consider the second one seem very difficult because it depends on a personal organization and to re-educate your health, your personal health, your physical health. And in general,
I think about the low heart rate, I think many practice, and if he brings in the book into the book about even breathing and relaxation and achieving some many brain how do you say that you can achieve
brain waves,
alpha rates, yeah, you know, low levels. That is, I think, is about training. It's about training the state
yes,
of
it's about training,
right?
yes, and it requires personal organization. That's it.
That's it. When I also remember when I really wanted to have projection, and I organized and I followed the book, like really practice, I had really good projection. So it's a training thing also.
Yes, yes, yes. Very good, very good. Let us go ahead, okay? So the animism. The animism is the complex of intracorporeal and extracorporeal phenomena produced by the individual without external interference, or in the case of projectology, exclusively by the lucid intraphysical consciousness, or the consensual projector as an intraphysical being. Here is a very important topic to consider, that the extraphysical consciousness doesn't develop animism. Animism is a condition for the intraphysical consciousness. Animus refers to a body that is motivated by the soul, a physical body, and the extraphysical consciousness doesn't have a physical body. In general, people make confusion about this conception. And they say that, oh, the extraphysical consciousness may develop animism. No, animism is something specifically for the intraphysical consciousness. This is very clear in this definition, and that is very important to understand, okay? So this is a classification made by Alexander Aksakov of the main phenomena that may represent the anemic condition: telepathy, telekinesis, self-bilocation, and ectoplasmy. Let me go ahead. Any doubt here? I think that I said something that is not in the way people used to think. You see, that animism is not useful to extraphysical consciousness, but this is very important to understand as a conception, okay?
Thanks, Ulisses. We have about 10 minutes, maybe.
Okay, thank you. So about parapsychism. Parapsychism, first of all, considers as the individual, the sensitive, is the individual who exercises parapsychism, or the parapsychic psychophysiological faculty of sensing, perceiving, and detecting influence directly from the extra-physical dimensions and the extra-physical consciousness, including intra-physical consciousness projected from the human body or soma. The importance of this topic here is to differentiate the parapsychic condition from the projected condition. Understand that the projected condition is really something more evolved than the parapsychism itself. So parapsychism is something close to the mediumistic condition. And Professor Waldo wants to call our attention to the possibilities of developing the anemic condition of the projector. And also for us to understand that the combination and the fusion between the anemic condition together with the parapsychic condition should be the more useful and profitable condition. So simultaneously employ his or her composite anemic parapsychic perceptions in the quest for mastery of multidimensional self-awareness. So this kind of complex condition is more useful, but it's not the ideal condition. So the comparison between the sensitive and the projector means to really consider the advantages that we can learn from the projective experience. So in parapsychism, we may find a passive instrument in ourselves. In the projective condition, we are active, we have an active attitude. So the mediation, consciex, conscience. Consciex is the extra-physical consciousness, and conscience the intra-physical consciousness. And in parapsychism, we find a mediation in those two conditions. And the lucid projector dispenses with the qualities of these agents of mediation. The physical dimension is the place where the parapsychism is developed, and the extra-physical dimension is the environment where the projector finds himself. And the intra-physical, non-projected sensitive does not manifest through the projector, you see? And the projector can manifest through the intra-physical sensitive. So Professor Waldo is all the time trying to put the condition of the projector, of the lucid projector, above the condition of the sensitive, you see, in terms of what is really, what is the priority for our personal evolution? What is our target? In general, when people has difficulty to develop extra-physical lucid projections, people likes to spread the parapsychic condition, and they lose the main target to really develop the extra-physical lucidity. This is the kind of mistake, you see. So Professor Waldo is calling our attention for the main target for evolution in this situation. So the comparisons, let me see here. The topics continue. Here we have 8 important topics. Because of our short time, I will move ahead, okay? Yeah, I could tell you the main idea in this topic. So here, the comparison between the lucid projection and the parapsychic trance. So the parapsychic trance is the psychophysiological or altered state of mind with marked characteristics such as reduction in lucidity, suspension of voluntary activity, and dissociation of the consciousness, which becomes passive to the manifestation of another consciousness through the use of its vehicles of consensual manifestation. So the parapsychic trance is the characteristic condition for the medium, for the person who works with his mediumistic possibilities. And this condition may be completely overcome by the condition of the lucid projector. So the main differences here are the amnesia, the discontinuity of memory, and the partial annulment of the intraphysical consciousness's defense mechanisms, characteristic of the parapsychic trance, you see? So those conditions are typical from the parapsychic trance, and they are really conditions that can be overcome by the lucid projector, okay? So lucid, let me see here. The lucid consensual projections can be classified into 3 categories: anemic, parapsychic, and mixed. Mixed between the anemic and the parapsychic, okay? This is much different from the trance condition. So the parapsychism and the lucid projection. Here in this chapter, Professor Valdo, he insists, he tries to really show that the condition of the lucid projection is much more advanced than the parapsychism. So parapsychism is still a providential psychophysiological crutch sustaining the acquisition of experiences on the part of consciousness. Lucid projection cannot rationally be considered as a simple crutch to be discarded at the appropriate time, because it does not constitute a process of mere intermediation like parapsychism. It is instead one of the 3 basic states of the consciousness in evolution. So I consider those statements from Professor Valdo very strong, because in general, we are trying to develop our parapsychism, and we think that that's a great condition for our evolution. And Professor Valdo is showing that this is only an intermediate stage in our evolution, okay? I don't know if people feel frustrated with this kind of statement, you see, because in general, we consider parapsychism the maximum, okay? So this kind of statement is really very strong in this book. It's a very strong statement, okay? With this idea, we could stop here our class today if we understand this, this proposition. So let's go ahead. So in the fusion, besides those 3 states of existence, there is the state wherein they are fused, or in other words, the evolved state of continuous self-awareness. So this is an even better condition, the continuous self-awareness, okay? This is much better than self-parapsychism, much better than some hair projections, the continuous self-awareness. I don't know when, but we will arrive there. So parapsychism is a condition, parapsychism is a condition, not a power. You see this kind of statement, it's very interesting. Lucid projection, besides being a consensual state, also incontestably constitutes a power of the consciousness. So the reason for that, I don't know how to say that, how to pronunciate this word, the raison d'être, the reason for that of parapsychism as a process of intermediation for oneself or for others disappears when the evolution of the vehicles of manifestation of the consciousness. On the other hand, lucid projection will continue to exist as long as the consciousness utilizes these same vehicles of manifestation. Those words are very clear for me. I don't know how it sounds for you. Okay? Any comments? So the general classification of the consciential projections, Professor Valdo here develops, if I can remember, 18 topics, 18 categories for classification. I wrote down here, I think that only 4 or 5, just to show you the beginning of this chapter. So you may choose different categories for classifying the projections. But here, let's see, the quality of the projections as pure or natural consciential projections, or impure or forced consciential projections. CP means consciential projections. So the magnitude of the projected consciousness, if it's a lucid projection, a semi-lucid projection, or lucid dream, and so on. So you may differentiate the meaning, the value, or the phenomenology of the experience. And the third, the physiological nature, if it is anemic projection, parapsychic projection, or mixed projection, as we have already seen it. And the will of the projector. So you may also develop scales to classify your will, and the healthfulness of the experience. If it's a natural, strange, intrusive, nightmarish, or pathological projection, depressive projection, and so on. There are lots of categories that you may classify your projections. I really recommend that you may read those 18 categories that Professor Valdo listed in this chapter. And here we are coming closer to the end of our marathon today. The 6 basic categories of lucid projection here. It's possible to project to outside of your body only your energosoma. In the book, Professor Valdo wrote holochakra. This kind of projection, it's not difficult for you to observe with your clairvoyance. I had this opportunity during a course. Professor Valdo told our attention, and he projected his energetic body to the front side of him, and we could see that, you see. And another basic category, the density of your psychosoma with the holochakra, and the rarefaction, the psychosoma without the holochakra, you see. And another category, the coincidence, the mental soma leaving the psychosoma, coincident in the human body. So the psychosoma is there attached to the physical body, and you may live only with your mental soma. And then the projection, the projection of the psychosoma, and then leave the psychosoma in the ordinary extra-physical dimension, dislocating itself solely in the mental soma. And the last one, the consciousness can project him or herself, conjugating different types of vehicles in various levels of existential dimensions. Okay? So this classification, I consider it very, very useful for classifications. This is the basic criteria for classifying lucid projections. Okay? And the last topic, let me see, the time is over, only 50 minutes.
That's okay, Ulisses, you can finish,
Okay.
No problem.
So here is the category of lucidity and memory. So you may have lucid recalled projections, lucid unrecalled projections, and non-lucid unrecalled projections. So this is the binomial, important for this kind of classification, the extraphysical lucidity subsequent recall binomial. And this is our last topic today. Excuse me for the speed of the content. I knew that it should be difficult to talk about those things. I was not able to do it in another way, different from following the sequence of topics, because a few of them are very important. I found very important those topics considering the relation between parapsychism and lucid projections. We may return to this reflection to find and to look for and to recycle our personal orientation in terms of what is important for our personal development. So my personal synthesis of all those subjects, I can concentrate it in this kind of reflection. Okay.
Ulysses, I wanted to say thank you.
Amount of subjects. Yes, Jeffrey, please.
No, you're, as always, the depth of your reflections and the level of detail and your observations that always catch really interesting perspectives or phrases, and then you interpret it in a way which I find really, really useful for us. So I just want to thank you for that. Lovely to have you with us and have you making yet another contribution to the work we're doing here. I also wanted to raise, guys, just as we're wrapping up now, I wanted to let you know about the next event of this. It'll be on the 19th of November.
Jeff, we still have some time for debates before we wrap.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah, we have about. Yeah, sorry, Jeff. We have about half an hour more, so we have a small group today. But yeah, we have a small group today, so we won't do the breakout rooms, but maybe we will have a chance now to return to some of those reflections, Ulisses, that maybe we can pose to the group and have a little discussion. Anything that you would like to bring to the group that you thought was particularly interesting? Or does anyone have questions about what was presented?
Yes, I'd like to hear from you. I tried to give you a piece of the impact I received reading again those topics, you see, because in my daily life and the relationships I used to develop with my colleagues here, we are in a moment where we are giving a very big value to parapsychism. But the statements from Professor Waldo, they gave me a strong impact, you see, to really come back and return to the priority of the extra-physical lucidity. It's much different. And I agree with that. Yesterday, I was participating in a meeting, and I could transmit this reflection to my colleagues, and the arguments from Professor Waldo are very strong. You see, are very strong. I got a little bit shocked with that.
Ulysses, what do you think may have been the most impactful phrase or idea you read amongst those chapters there?
Jeffrey, please.
Stands out?
I don't know if I could understand your words.
Yeah, the most impactful phrase or idea that you observed from amongst those chapters. Like, was there one that really stood out for you? It was like, wow, that idea is really, really strong, or was it just too many to be able to choose just sort of the main one or maybe two that you...
I think that you are referring to the idea I just told you right now. But I think that we could receive this impact developing other reflections. For instance, the lucid projection, it is or it is not a kind of parapsychism. In this section, Professor Valdo, he tried to differentiate those two conceptions. Okay, that's very clear. He tries to put them in different levels and to differentiate them. I found this point very important for us to understand and to try to really develop a deeper comprehension about that. What is and what is not parapsychism in relation to the to the lucid projection.
Would you say that? Oh, sorry. I just had a question about
the direct. You see, the way I understand it, the direct contact with the Tolsin and the direct contact with the extra-physical consciousness. When we find ourselves in this condition, we are not in the parapsychic paradigm. You see, when we develop direct contact, when the communication is direct, you see, this is the way I understood it.
Yeah, because he says how parapsychism is mere intermediation.
An interdimensional, yes, the notion of intermediation.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Regarding traveling, Clevio, I always confuse the name. Yeah, is it because is it a type of projection or is it parapsychic?
Well,
because you don't have an intermediate in this situation, right? Or even just clairvoyance. If you see a conscience, you see by yourself. But this is still a parapsychism.
Okay, it's clear. Your question is clear, but the answer is not, because the clairvoyance may be developed in many different stages and qualities. When your clairvoyance has a high level in terms of quality, it may be almost the same as a lucid projection. You may be there together with the extra-physical consciousness. And it's not easy to differentiate the phenomenological condition. You see, but if the quality of the clairvoyance is lower, and the discernment about the content, a lot of peripheral phenomena may rise. You see? So a very, very, very clear clairvoyance is almost the same in practical terms as a lucid projection. And it's not difficult for you to really move your mental soma to the other place. So this that you are calling a clairvoyance may be a lucid projection by the mental soma. You see, so the distinction between those conditions is not easy. We're talking in a theoretical way. So when the quality is in a very high level for the clairvoyance, maybe you may consider it a projective experience. But when you have a mixed perception with interferences, the parapsychic condition is very obvious.
Yeah, I'm asking because I know, like, I have a friend that I'm talking to her on the telephone. I'm in Australia and she's in Brazil, and she's telling me what's happening in my house.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, so this kind of clairvoyance is like traveling, right? Or so I don't know if this is a projection or you know,
Well,
a type of
I think Waldo defines it
parasite.
as like, yeah, I think Waldo defines it as a projection of the frontal chakra. So it goes, the frontal chakra, so to speak, goes. So, and then the person is able to visually observe what is occurring in your house in that instance that you're talking about. So it's I would think it's a type of
Energetic,
parapsychism.
right?
Well, no, you there's actually reports of people saying what is physically happening in that remote location. So, you know, someone's walking through that room, or the TV's on, or whatever the case can be. So they actually have can see the place at a,
But
at a
it's, yeah,
distance.
it's
So
a
the visual,
projection
the
of
parapsychic visual projection of the frontal chakra. So
of your energosoma, doesn't go the consciousness.
particularly the frontal chakra,
Yeah,
particularly the frontal chakra.
yeah.
But the consciousness seems to stay in the body, and hence that's why they're able to continue talking and so on. But they're getting the input from this
Energetic.
projected frontal chakra.
But maybe this description that Silvana told us is not enough for us to have a good conclusion. We should ask that person what she perceived, what she knows about you. Not only that.
She knows me very well because she's my sister.
Okay, but in
Yeah.
that right moment, what did she perceive? What happened? See, so the content of the experience is maybe the most important in this moment, at that moment, because we could consider which other interferences happening happening by that moment, and if she really could reach your inner content, your scenes, what you are feeling by that moment. The projection may put you face to face with other consciousness, and I think that is the difference. And even so, the maturity in terms of parapsychic abilities may change the condition, because if you are face to face with an extra physical consciousness, and if you are not able to penetrate the other consciousness, and this penetration, I understand it as parapsychism, may change the quality of the experience. So the general classification may show us that it was a projection. But even if you are projected outside of your body, but if you don't have access to the other consciousness, you have a strong limitation. And
but if you see, like in travel clairvoyance, then you see all the consciousness, you know.
I would say that seeing is not enough in terms of consensual interaction. Only see the external appearance to see. In terms of consciousness, the 12 scenes, the feelings, the sentiments, and the memories, and a lot of traits related to the expansion of consciousness may be considered. Okay, the main indicator probably may be the expansion of your consciousness during those experiences. In general, we forget this condition. I may be apparently inside my body, but I may be able to communicate with a free consciousness only by contacting directly the toxins.
Mm.
You may consider that a kind of projection of my mental soma, you see? And I can be walking in the street.
Yeah.
Exactly this experience. I had a kind of experience like that 2 months ago. I'm working together with a friend of mine, Rodrigo Marchioli. We presented the course Cosmo Consciousness, and we work on that. And we found interest in coming from free consciousness to work with us. Indeed, we are working with them. It's the contrary. Yes. And that's really amazing because the direct contact, it doesn't require a lot of complex phenomenological resources. In the direct contact, I ask myself if this is a category of parapsychism or if it is something different. And reading this chapter, this session today, we see that it's not easy to classify all those possibilities, because the direct contact with the inner condition of another consciousness, this is the essence of the multidimensional relationship. You see, not only to see an external appearance. So the notions of projectability and parapsychism, we may be all the time rethinking how those notions fit to these conditions. I suppose that Professor Waldo was very clear in his book, and we are always making confusion again.
Yeah.
Because our experience is all fragmented, see?
Yeah.
But this situation of direct contact, it helps us remake those classifications. You see, direct contact with the conscience, direct contact with the heterotocine.
Yeah, maybe she was using myself as a medium, as an intermediate.
Yes, this goes beyond energies, beyond vehicles, beyond dimensions.
Yeah. Okay.
So Ulisses, as we are discussing, that is not going to be recording and anything, but I like to understand, because I couldn't understand the talking about the parapsychism being intermediate and not so important, because it is important, right? We are in a human body, and if we want to communicate, we need to have a development of our parapsychism. But what shocked you is actually was stronger, because then I can understand better.
Yeah, because I can tell you, what happened with me. I forgot the value of direct contact. You see, that's the point. If you can achieve the direct contact with another consciousness, parapsychism is not necessary.
Yeah. And we are not in that point. That is what that's what shocked you.
It's very important for us right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know like some. I have a friend. She's a medium, say, and more than once she was passing a message to us in one occasion, and she said, "Oh, I'm not going to say it." He wants to tell me something, but no, it was the concierge from using her to pass the message, and the concierge said, "She's not telling what I want to say." You know, he was talking about the medium that was passing the message. You know, and then he said, even the concierge was complaining about that medium. She said, "Oh, she's not giving the message." You know?
That's a
Yeah.
good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a sentence here in the chapter on page, what's the page number? 806, in evolution, in the middle of the page. Valdo writes, "It can be affirmed that as consciousnesses evolve, the percentage of parapsychism gradually decreases over time."
What is the page,
That's
Jeffrey? The page? You have the
interesting.
number?
It is, yeah, it's page 806.
That's good.
806. And the piece is evolution. So yeah, it really puts parapsychism in its place, and he talks about it being a providential psychophysiological crutch, sustaining the acquisition of new experiences on the part of the consciousness. But nevertheless, the more lucid consciousness ends up dispensing with this crutch after it no longer needs it. Yeah, it's a really interesting phrase, Ulysses, that you've spotted.
I wrote down this statement in this slide. I also got shocked when I read it again.
It's really something, isn't it?
Literally, that parapsychism is a crutch. You see, that's it. That's very important for us to recall.
Yeah. We think of it as being the end game, but it's not, because we weren't paying enough attention when we read these ideas.
That what I was classifying as direct contact is the consciences. How do you pronunciate this in English?
Consciences, I think we
consciences.
Along those.
This is direct contact, you see. You may value direct contact when you are together with another person, and you say to yourself, "Oh, that person understands me. That person can feel what I am feeling." You see, that's great. You see, this is direct contact, when someone can perceive you deeply. So, Michiko, you are still recording, okay? That's right?
Yes, but I will edit. Before I post the video, I will edit this out. Yes.
That's clear. My son came here. He's not.
Oh, yeah.
If you
let us see him.
Yes.
Let us.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe Jeffrey is gonna close now.
Yeah, sure. Take two. Yes, I already thanked you, Ulysses. I'm not going to say it again, mate, but it's always a pleasure. So thank you very much. The next session on the book club projectology is going to be on the 19th of November. We're covering chapters 423 to 446. The facilitators on that day are going to be Tony Muskoff and Tatiana Mota. They're here in Australia at the moment, but they're very experienced veteran conscientiology teachers and researchers. And so I know they'll do a really good job on this and explaining things, just as Ulysses has done as well. So you're really welcome to join us. And in preparation for that, of course, feel free to read the chapters. Try to find some time in your days and weeks before the next month. And the technique we'll be covering is lucid, well, actually not be covering, the technique which you can apply and seek to apply this month, throughout this month, in terms of helping to develop your lucid projectability, is the lucid projection through the dream technique. It is in Projectology, the book we're studying. It's on page 470, and the chapter number is 224. So that technique helps us to start to be able to recognize when we're in a dream and actually transform a dream into a lucid projection. And that's done with some conditionings that we positive self-conditionings we can do to help remind us and to catch us when we're in a dream, and to try to, you know, saturate our mind a little bit with the idea of being able to leave the body subsequently, by improving our lucidity in the moment when we are catching ourselves in a dream and becoming more alert and aware. So it's quite a fun one to do, and I can speak a few experiences on that as well. It's quite a fun one to do when you start to have those kinds of experiences. It's quite an eye-opener. So do try to give that some energy and time over the next month if you have the interest. I think that's it. Is there anything else, guys, you'd like to cover off?
Thank you.